This is a lecture video on the differentiation of transcendental functions. So first, let us define kung ano ba yung transcendental functions natin. So in mathematics, it is a function that is not expressible as a finite combination of the algebraic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, raising to a power, and extracting a root. So the example of transcendental functions are trigonometric functions like your sine x and cosine x, logarithmic functions, exponential functions, and any functions containing them. But this video will focus on solving the derivative of the different trigonometric functions. So let's start. So example number 1, we have this function y is equal to sine squared 4x plus 1 half cosine 8x. So if we recall the different rules in getting the derivative of an algebraic expression, so meron tayong addition property dito. So ibig sabihin we have two terms added. So ang gagamitin natin na rule is yung rule for the derivative of sum or difference. So what we will do is to get the derivative of each function separately. So unahin natin si function number 1, yung unang function which is si sine squared 4x. So the derivative of sine squared 4x with respect to x. Okay. So si sine squared 4x natin can actually be rewritten as ganito. The derivative of sine 4x squared. So, ilalabas lang natin si exponent. And then, from this function, from this new equation or function, we can now apply yung ating power rule. So, paano nga ba ina-apply si power rule? So, if we recall yung ating formula for the differentiation of a function raised to an exponent. So, for example, meron tayong x dito and then raised to 3. Or let's say raised to n na lang. Okay, with respect to x, this will be equal to n x raised to n minus 1 du or dx all over dx. Ito, si x natin will be your base of your exponent. So, ito si x. Kaya x yung nilagay dito. Okay, so ito ngayon yung gagamitin natin na um, rule in getting the derivative of sine 4x quantity raised to 2. So, yung base natin dito is si sine 4x. So, now let's proceed to the differentiation. So, by applying power rule here, we will have 2. And then, kopyahin natin si base, which is si sine 4x. Tapos, yung kanyang exponent is mababawasan ng isa. So, that is 2 minus 1. And then, don't forget to get the derivative of your base. Okay? So, palitan ko na lang to. Derivative of your base with respect to x. So, ano ba yung base natin for this function, for this example? Yung base natin dito is si sine 4x. So, yun yung kukunin natin yung derivative with respect to x. Okay? Now, let us get the derivative of your sine 4x. So, at the derivative of sine 4x with respect to x. Okay? So, yung formula natin for in getting the derivative of sine u, okay? So, sine u yung nasa formula natin. So, the derivative of your sine u dx is equal to cosine u du over dx. So, ito ngayon yung formula na susundan natin in getting the derivative of your sine 4x. And if before we can do that, mag-let u muna tayo. So, let's continue here sa other side. So, let u be equal to, okay, since ito yung format ng nasa formula, ito yung susundan natin. So, let u tayo be equal to 4x. Okay, so let u be equal to 4x and then kunin natin si du over dx para kung ano man yung value, yun i-substitute natin dito. Okay, so we have du over dx. So, ibig sabihin lang nito, the derivative of u with respect to x and u natin is 4x. So, the derivative of 4x with respect to x is equal to 4. Now, we can substitute these values dito sa ating formula. So, the derivative of sine 4x with respect to x is equal to cosine 4x multiplied by 4. And simplifying further for this equation or expression, we will have 4 cosine 4x. Okay? So, continuing our solution in getting the derivative of the first function, we have 2 sine 4x. So, pwedeng hindi na natin isulat yung kanyang exponent kasi 1 lang naman. And then, we multiply this with 4 cosine 4x. So, we can actually combine yung dalawang numerical coefficient dito. So, let's multiply that. 1, 4 times 2, that is 8. And then, kopyahin natin yung mga transcendental functions natin. So, from here, si 8 sine 4x cosine 4x, pwede pa natin siyang isimplify. How? By the use of the different trigonometric identities. So, yung mga trigonometric identities natin, if we recall, yung sine 2x natin, so recall, double angle formulas. So, if we recall yung formula or yung identity ng sine 2x natin, that will be equal to 2 sine x cosine x. Okay? So, for this problem, yung x natin dito sa ating answer dito is si 4x. So, palitan natin si x with 4x. So, sine 2 times 4x is equal to 2 sine 4x, okay? And then cosine 4x. So, from here, pwede na natin siyang isimplify. So, tuloy ulit natin dito sa next column. So, sine 2 times 4x is equal to sine 8x, 2 sine 4x cosine 4x. Okay, so from here, how do we come up with an equation na kaparehas nito? This one, 2 sine 4x cosine 4x from here. So, if we are going to get the factors of 8, okay, pwede natin tong i-write as 4 times 2 sine 4x cosine 4x, which will now be uniform dito sa ating trigonometric identity. Okay, so, this part, i-substitute natin si sine 8x. So, ang mangyayari sa answer natin for the differentiation of the first function will be 4 times sine 8x. And simplifying this one, magiging 4 sine 8x. Ito ngayon yung differentiation ng first function natin. Now, let us go to the differentiation of the second function. So, at the derivative of 1/2 cosine 8x with respect to x. Okay. So, ang gagawin natin dito, since this is a combination of a constant multiplied to a function, so this is a constant multiplied to a function, gagawin natin is to isolate si constant and then get the derivative of the function. So, if we rewrite our equation, magiging 1/2 times the derivative of cosine x with respect to x. Okay? Cosine 8x pala. So, cosine 8x with respect to x. And now, in getting the derivative of cosine x, we have this formula. The derivative of cosine u with respect to x is equal to negative sine u du over dx. So, mag-let u ulit tayo dito sa ating function. So, let u be equal to si 8x. Okay? Let u be equal to 8x and let us get the derivative of u with respect to x, and that is equal to 8. So, the derivative of 1 half cosine 8x with respect to x is equal to 1 half multiplied by negative sine u natin is 8x, and then du over dx natin is 8. So if we simplify further this one, the derivative of the second function will be equal to negative 4 sine 8x. So we now have values for the derivative of the first function, which is ito. First function natin, ito yung derivative niya. Yung second function natin is ito. So, ang gagawin na lang natin is to add them kasi yung operation naman natin dito is addition. So, let us continue the process or the solution sa next slide natin. So, we now have the dy over dx is equal to the derivative of this one. So, that is 4 sine 8x plus the derivative of the second function, which is si negative 4 sine 8x. Okay? So, the derivative of the given function in the first example will now be equal to 0. So, let's have another example. We again have a sum of two functions. First function is 1 half x and the second function is 1/4 sine of 2x. At the derivative of 1 half x with respect to x, that will be equal to, so isolate natin si constant, 1 half, and then get the derivative of the function. And as we all know, dx over dx is equal to 1. So the derivative of the first function is equal to 1 half. Now let's have the second function, the derivative of 1/4 sine 2x with respect to x. So again, isolate natin si constant or we factor that out and then get the derivative of the function, sine 2x with respect to x. Now, how do we get the derivative of sine 2x? So let us again recall yung formula in getting the derivative of sine u with respect to x. And this is equal to cosine u du over dx. So, since u yung variable dito, let us assign a value for u from this function. So, let u be equal to 2x. Then, your du over dx will be equal to 2 since the derivative of 2x is equal to 2. So, pwede na natin ngayong i-substitute these values dito sa ating derivation of sine 2x. So, the derivative of sine 2x with respect to x is equal to cosine 2x multiplied by your du over dx, that is equal to 2. So, this will be equal to 2 cosine 2x. So, pwede na ngayon natin itong i-substitute dito sa derivative ng sine 2x. Now, let us continue in getting the derivative of the second function. So, we have your 1/4 and then the derivative of sine 2x, and that is 2 cosine 2x. So, if we are going to simplify this one, this will be equal to, so magiging 2 over 4 yan, so 1 half. 1 half cosine 2x. And then, since tapos na tayo sa pagkuha ng derivative ng first function and the second function, we now can get the derivative of the whole function, si dy over dx. So, first, kunin natin or sulat natin or substitute natin yung derivative of the first function, which is si 1/2, and then we add yung derivative ng second function natin, which is ito, 1/2 cosine 2x. Okay, so from here, we can combine this one by getting the LCD. So, 2 yung kanyang LCD. So, dy over dx will be equal to 2 and then 1 plus cosine 2x. So, if you recall again your trigonometric identities, isa na naman tong identity. And this is what we call your square identity. And this will be equal to dy over dx cosine squared x. So, ito na ngayon yung final answer natin for this example. So, simplified siya using, so our final answer is simplified using trigonometric identity. So, let's continue with the next example. We have here y is equal to 3 over 8x plus 3 over 8 sine x cosine x plus 1/4 cosine cube x sine x. So, again, let us get the derivative of each function separately. So, unahin natin the derivative of 3 over 8x with respect to x. So, this will be equal to 3 over 8. Okay. And for the second function, we have the derivative of 3 over 8 sine x cosine x with respect to x. So, ang gagawin natin dito is to factor out si constant, so 3 over 8, and then we get the derivative of sine x cosine x with respect to x. So, if you recall, the formula or the rule in getting the derivative of a product, so for example, we have two functions, u and v. So, the formula in getting the derivative of functions that are multiplied will be u dv plus dv over dx plus v du over dx. So, ito ngayon yung formula na gagamitin natin in getting the derivative of the second function. So, let u, okay, let us follow this formula. So, let u be equal to sine x and v be equal to cosine x. Now, let us get the derivative of sine x and cosine x. So, du over dx is equal to cosine x. Okay? Hindi na natin kailangang i-derive si x kasi we all know that dx over dx is equal to 1. And hindi lang din naman natin siya isusulat. So, sabihin na lang natin na the derivative of sine x with respect to x is equal to cosine x. And for dv over dx naman, the derivative of cosine x with respect to x will be equal to negative sine x. Okay? So again, same reason kung bakit hindi natin isusulat yung derivative of a constant is because dx over dx is equal to 1. So from here, pwede na natin tong i-substitute dito sa ating formula. So, ang mangyayari dyan will be u natin is sine x multiplied by dv over dx, which is si negative sine x. And then added to v, that is cosine x, and then multiplied with du over dx, and that is equal to cosine x. So, if we are going to simplify this one, this will be equal to negative sine squared x plus cosine squared x. And for the derivative of the first function, we will have 3 over 8. So, the derivative of 3 over 8 sine x cosine x with respect to x is equal to 3 over 8 multiplied by negative sine squared x plus cosine squared x. So, ito na ngayon yung derivative ng ating second function. Ito yung derivative ng first function natin. Now, we are going to get the derivative of our third function. So, in getting the derivative of 1/4 cosine cube x sine x with respect to x, so factor out natin si constant and we get the derivative of the function, which is si cosine cube x sine x with respect to x. So, mag-let you ulit tayo dito since these are again multiplied, these are again functions that are multiplied, gagamitin ulit natin si product rule. So, product rule yung tawag dito. So, we will have let u be equal to cosine cube x and then v equal to sine x. Then, computing for du over dx, this will be equal to, okay, so this will be equal to 3. So, bababa yung kanyang exponent, copy the base, and then, yung exponent niya is mababawasan ng isa, so magiging 2. So, cosine squared x. And then, get the derivative of your base, which is si cosine x. And we all know that the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x as computed kanina. So, we can just write negative sine x dito as the derivative of the base. And if we simplify this one, this will be equal to negative 3 cosine squared x sine x. So, that is du over dx. Now, what is dv over dx? So, as computed kanina, the derivative of sine x will be equal to cosine x. So, we now have these values to substitute dito sa ating product rule formula. So, this will be equal to 1/4 multiplied by, okay, so yung u natin, that is cosine cube x, and then dv natin, dv over dx natin is si cosine x, plus our v, which is si sine x, multiplied by our du over dx, that is equal to negative 3 cosine squared x sine x. So, from there, let us simplify. This will be equal to 1/4 multiplied by, of course, pwede natin tong pagsamahin. So, cosine 4x. And then, since negative to, negative times positive, that will be negative 3 cosine squared x sine squared x. Okay? So, this is now the derivative of the third function. So, pwede na natin ngayong isolve yung derivative ng ating whole function by substituting these values. So, sa next slide natin siya ituloy. So, dy over dx is equal to 3 over 8. And then, we add the second derivative of the second function, that is 3 over 8 times negative sine squared x plus cosine squared x. And for the third function, that is 1/4 cosine raised to 4x minus 3 cosine squared x sine squared x. So, plus 1/4 multiplied by cosine 4x or cosine raised to 4x minus 3 sine squared x cosine squared x. So, recall ulit natin yung isang identity, the Pythagorean identity. We have cosine squared x plus sine squared x is equal to 1. So, if we manipulate this one, sine squared x will be equal to 1 minus cosine squared x. Okay? So, ito ngayon yung isi-substitute natin sa mga sine squared x. So, ang mangyayari will be dy over dx is equal to 3 over 8 plus 3 over 8 multiplied by our sine squared x, ito, negative 1 minus cosine squared x plus cosine squared x plus 1/4 cosine raised to 4x minus 3 sine squared x. So, palitan ulit natin siya ng 1 minus cosine squared x, then multiplied by cosine squared x. So, let us further simplify. So, dy over dx will be equal to 3 over 8. So, ito, distribute na natin siya. 3 over 8 times negative 1. So, negative times positive, that will be equal to negative. So, negative 3 over 8. And then, 3 over 8 times negative positive. So, 3 over 8 times positive cosine squared x, that will be equal to positive 3 over 8 cosine squared x plus, si 3 over 8 distribute din natin kay cosine squared x. So, 3 over 8 cosine squared x. And then, for this one naman, let us distribute si 1/4. So, plus 1 over 4 cosine raised to 4x. And then, distribute din natin siya dito. So, magiging negative 3 over 4 kasi 1/4 times 3 multiplied by si cosine squared x, distribute muna natin dito sa binomial. So, cosine squared x minus cosine raised to 4x. Okay? And then, further simplification, we have ito, si 3/8 and 3/8 magka-cancel since they are the same and have opposite operation. So, we can cancel this one. 3/8 cosine squared x plus 3/8 cosine squared x, we can actually add this one. So, magiging 3/4. 3/8 plus 3/8 is equal to 3/4 cosine squared x. And then, kopyahin natin si 1/4 cosine raised to 4x. And then, distribute ulit natin ito dito sa binomial. So, mangyayari negative 3 over 4 cosine squared x. And negative times negative is positive. 3 over 4 cosine raised to 4x. Okay? So, for further simplification, if we can see, si 3/4 cosine squared x is the same as this one, but with opposite operation. So, pwede na naman natin siyang i-cancel. And we will be left with 1/4 cosine raised to 4x plus 3/4 cosine raised to 4x. And of course, they have the same variable. So, ibig sabihin, pwede natin siyang i-combine. So, yung dy over dx natin is left with 1/4 cosine raised to 4x plus 3 over 4 cosine raised to 4x. So, pwede natin tong i-combine. So, 1/4 plus 3/4, that is equal to 1. So, our derivative for the given function is equal to cosine raised to 4x. So, this is our final answer for the derivative of the given function in the example. So, that ends my lecture video on the differentiation of trigonometric functions.